How's it going, everyone? Happy Friday, and welcome to the latest episode of Mystery Unsolved. It's a little hot out, so it's also hot in here a bit, so I figured I'd start just a little bit early, tad bit. Mystery Unsolved. Tonight's topic, the mysterious death of Harold Holt. Who was Harold Holt? He was the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. How did he die? That's what we don't know. That's what we're here to find out. Without further ado, Mystery Unsolved, the mysterious death of Harold Holt. You may remember we actually did an episode a few weeks back, well, about a month back, the mysterious death of Marilyn Monroe, because I don't care what you think, Marilyn Monroe died under mysterious circumstances, so we're back at another mysterious death, because if anything's ever mystery unsolved, it's someone dying and we have no idea why. So, all right. First things first, let's get a little background on Mr. Harold Holt, shall we? There's a lot to go through here. Holy crap. Harold Edward Holt was an Australian politician and lawyer who served as the 17th Prime Minister of Australia from 1966 until his disappearance and presumed death in 1967. So he was only a Prime Minister for about a year. Well, that sucks. He held office as the leader of the Liberal Party of Australia. Then it goes into him as treasurer. His resume is quite nice. Holt was born in Sydney and moved to Melbourne in childhood, studying law at the University of Melbourne. He practiced law and was a lobbyist for cinema operators. He was first elected to the House of Representatives at the age of 27, becoming a member of Parliament for the division of Falkner by election in 1935. Can you imagine getting into politics at age 27? God, I guess if you have a knack for it, right? All right, it's all about his political career, so that's not why we're here. We're here because we want to know what happened to the damn man. Holt loved the ocean, particularly spearfishing, and had holiday homes at Portsea, Victoria, and Bingle Bay, Queensland. Must be nice. On December 17th, 1967, while Holt was spending the weekend at Portsea, he and 4 companions decided to drive to Port Napon to watch sailor Alec Rose pass through the Rip on his solo circumnavigation attempt. On their way back to Portsea, Holt convinced the group to stop at a remote Cheviot beach for a swim before lunch. He had spearfished there on many previous occasions and claimed to know this beach like the back of my hand. Because of the rough conditions, only one other person, Alan Stewart, joined Holt in the water. Stewart kept close to shore, but Holt swam out into deeper water and was seemingly caught up in a rip, eventually disappearing from view. One of the witnesses, Marjorie Gillespie, described it as a leaf being taken out, so quick and final. Holt's disappearance sparked one of the largest search operations in Australian history, but no trace of his body was ever found. At 10 p.m. on December 18th, Governor-General Lord Casey announced he had terminated Holt's commission as Prime Minister upon his presumed death. Wow. Like, literally 24 hours later, Governor Lord Casey's just like, he's dead. I'm relieving him of his duty. Just like that. No informal information about the investigation, just a police report released in early 1968 made no definitive findings about Holt's death, while a colonial inquest in 2005 returned a verdict of accidental drowning. It is generally accepted that Holt overestimated his swimming ability. Some have alleged that Holt committed suicide, but those close to him rejected this as uncharacteristic of his personality. Conspiracy theories have included suggestions that Holt faked his own death and was assassinated by the CIA, or was collected by a submarine so that he could defect to China. You gotta love conspiracy theories, right? A memorial service was held for Holt at St. Paul's Cathedral in Melbourne on December 22nd and attended by numerous world leaders. Age 59 at the time of his death, Holt became the third Australian Prime Minister to die in office. Joe McEwen, the leader of the Country Party, was sworn in as caretaker Prime Minister on December 19th. Alright, so this, I didn't read this beforehand. I heard this just as you did. So I was not expecting him to go disappearing in the water. That's interesting. He went out with one other person, and there's no mention of this other person trying to go out there and find his body. So unless I come across this, there's my suspicion right there. All right. All right. So let us now go to the theories and inquiries about what happened, shall we? It is generally agreed that Holt's disappearance was a simple case of an accidental drowning, but a number of conspiracy theories surfaced, most famously the suggestion that he was a spy from the People's Republic of China and had been collected by a Chinese submarine. Holt was the third. Oh, we already know that. We already know that too. Okay. We may or may not hear similar things, but we're going to probably hear new things. So, Holt again rose early on December 17th, which was a Sunday. They have to put that in there. And after breakfast, telephoned his wife. He drove to the local general store mid-morning, where he bought insect repellent, peanuts, and the weekend newspapers. One of the headlines in the Australian was PM advised to swim less, which detailed the latest advice from Holt's doctor. But whether Holt bought or read that particular paper is unclear. PM, Prime Minister, which is him, advised to swim less. How's that for irony? On returning home, Holt made plans for the rest of the day, which included a visit to Point Napon, a barbecue lunch, and an afternoon spearfishing trip. At 11:15 a.m., he and four others set out to Point Napon, where they hoped to watch solo, we already know that, Alec Rip pass with the Rip of Port Phillip Bay. He was accompanied by Gillespie, her daughter Vinner, and two family friends at the Gillespies, Martin Simpson and Alan Stewart. Alan Stewart is the one that went with him. It was a hot day, and Rose's yacht was barely visible, so the group stayed only a short while before leaving. On the drive back to Portsea, Holt suggested to the group that they stop, in 1960, Holt suggested the group stop at Cheviot Bay for a swim. It was about 12:15 p.m., and he wanted to cool down and work up an appetite before lunch. Holt knew the area well and had swum there many times before. Like the back of his hand, remember? Many times before. In 1960, even salvaging a porthole from the SS Cheviot, the shipwreck that had given the beach its name. Holt did not hesitate in entering the water, despite a large swell and visible currents and eddies. Stewart was the only other swimmer, as the others considered it unsafe. Stewart stayed close to shore, and even in the shallows felt a strong undertow. However, Holt swam deeper into the water and was dragged out to sea. The others called out to him, but he did not raise his arms or cry out for help. He soon slipped under the waves and out of sight, in a manner in which Gillespie described as like a leaf being taken out, so quick and final. Following Holt's disappearance, Stewart drove to a nearby off. Okay, so Stewart has been referenced again. Thank God, because if this man wasn't referenced throughout the rest of the article here, I would have been upset. Stewart drove to the nearby Officer Cadet School Portsea, an Australian Army training facility. The school was virtually deserted, as most personnel were on an annual leave, but the Victoria Police were contacted and initiated what became one of the largest search operations in Australian history. The entire Australian Defence Forces was put on high alert. The search for Holt's body began at 1:30 p.m., when 3 amateur divers entered the water and found it too rough. They were soon joined by helicopters, watercraft, police divers, and 2 naval diving teams. So he's a prime minister. They're going to do everything possible to find him. Little progress was made, however, because of the rough conditions and limited equipment available. By the end of the day, more than 190 personnel were involved, with operations based out of the Officer Cadet School. This number eventually increased to more than 340. The search resumed just before 5 a.m. on December 18th, despite strong wind, heavy seas, and occasional rain. So, the one thing that I'm not a meteorologist, nor am I a Coast Guard. I know shit about the water. I can't swim. Almost drowned twice throughout my life. That's another story. But one thing I find very interesting is that, remember, he knew these waters were like the back of his hand. The other people that he was with were like, you know what, that water looks unsafe. Him and Alex Stewart were like, no, let's go for a swim. It'll be fine. And as they're searching for him, it's literally been a day, and the waters have progressively gotten worse. I just think that's quite telling. Working in shifts, 50 divers focused on the rock pools and ledges near where Holt had last been sighted. They were forced to free dive to minimize injury, as they were continuously being driven against the nearby cliff face. A change in the tide suspended the search at 8 a.m. It returned in the mid-afternoon. The following day's operations were again hampered by the weather. So the weather is like the number one suspect right now. Conditions improved on Wednesday, December 20th, but the following day most personnel were being withdrawn. The search for Holt's body was officially called off on January 5th, 1968. At least they wait like that. That's a good search, right? Although it had been gradually scaled back to the point where it consisted only of daily beach patrol. Lieutenant Commander Phil Hawke, who led the HMAS Lonsdale diving team, later stated any chance of finding the Prime Minister was lost by the Sunday night. Rumors of Holt's disappearance reached the media just over an hour after it occurred, and at the first conclusive report was made about 1:45 p.m. on Melbourne's radio station. Holt's wife, Zara, was told of the disappearance by Peter Bailey, one of the Prime Minister's secretaries. A memorial service was held on December 22nd. Due to the absence of a body, no prayers of committal were made. Within the cathedral were 2,000 attendees, with many thousands more lining the nearby streets and lining through a public address system. Just trying to find out here. Okay. Small little thing I've come across is succession issues. Joe McEwen, the leader of the Country Party, was at his farm in Stanhope, Victoria, when he was informed of Holt's disappearance. He immediately made his way to Canberra and met with Lord Casey, the Governor General. Casey had already conferred with the people and agreed that McEwen that he should be commissioned for form as a caretaker government while they look for a new leader. Casey issued a statement announcing his intentions the following day, and McEwen was sworn in as Prime Minister on the afternoon of Tuesday, December 19th. Discussions about who should succeed Holt began taking part. Sorry, I'm talking over myself here. Discussions about who should succeed Holt as the leader of the Liberal Party began as soon as his disappearance became general knowledge. The situation was complicated by McEwen publicly announcing that the Country Party would leave the coalition if the Liberals selected some other guy, right? In line with the constitutional convention that the Prime Minister must sit in the House of Representatives. Sorry, this is all really boring. I'm just trying to find out if there's a point to it. McEwen would publicly announcing that the Country Party would leave the coalition if the Liberals, blah blah blah, Treasurer William McMahon was the party's leader. The Liberal Party's election was not held until January 1968, 3 days after the disappearance. There was four candidates. Gorton was selected over Halsuck on the second ballot and was sworn in as Prime Minister the following day. The first senator to hold the office. In line with the Constitutional Convention that the Prime Minister must sit in the House of Representatives, he resigned on February 1st to contest the by-election caused by Holt's death. Okay, sorry, I just totally made everyone bored. I thought that was going somewhere. According to his biographer, Tom Frame, there could never realistically be much doubt that Harold Holt drowned. He was simply one of the number of ordinary Australians who drown each year through poor judgment or bad luck. Holt likely misjudged his own swimming ability and the roughness of the conditions and was simply overcome by exhaustion. Alternatively, he may have suffered a heart attack, been struck by driftwood, stung by jellyfish, or even attacked by sharks. Holt's body was probably either trapped below the surface or washed out to sea on the ebb tide. It was not unusual for this to occur. 3 men had drowned at a beach in Rye a few years earlier, with one body disappearing and the other 2 ending up at different places. Sir Robert Southey, a senior figure in the Liberal organizational wing, said, he gives a speech to. Some have suggested that Holt entered the water primarily to impress Gillespie, with whom he was having an affair. Zara stated that this was the case, while Gillespie initially would not confirm that her relationship with Holt had been sexual in nature. She later confirmed that they had been having an affair. So, if you don't have sex with somebody, but you're still technically seeing them, it's still technically by default an affair. Well, I learned something new today. Formal investigations. Due to lack of evidence, the body would have been reduced to a skeleton in a period of as short as 24 to 40. Wait, back up. The resulting police report was released on January 5th, 1968, but did not record any definitive findings due to the lack of evidence. Senior pathologist James McNamara was consulted about what might have happened to Holt's body and suggested that it may have been trapped by kelp and then consumed by sea creatures, specifically sharks, crayfish, and/or sea lice. If that were the case, the body would have been reduced to a skeleton in a period of 24 to 48 hours. Some of those involved in the investigation later reported that certain relevant information had been deliberately omitted from the final report. For instance, Simpson's statement that Holt had several cans of beer in his bag. The federal government declined to conduct its own inquiry, as the disappearance was considered uncontroversial, and his family did not want one. By November of 2004, 82 cases had been deemed suitable for coronial inquests, including that of Holt. Johnstone opened a formal inquest in August of 2005 and handed down his findings as early as the following month. He concluded that Mr. Holt took an unnecessary risk in drowning in the rough water of Cheviot Beach. Johnstone also criticized the decision not to hold a governmental inquiry at the time of the disappearance, suggesting that it may have avoided the development of some of the unsubstantiated rumors and unusual theories. Suggestions of suicide. Some have advanced the views that Holt's death was not accidental, but rather that he chose to end his own life. Supporters of this theory claim that Holt was depressed and mentally unstable, and killed himself because he thought his political career was in jeopardy. Those who reject it point to his life, his joie de vivre. I don't know what that is. Hold on. Joie de vivre. Joy of living. Why don't just say that then? That's so weird. Those who reject it point to his joy of life and commitment to his family, as well as the plans he had made for the coming year. In 1968, police reports specifically ruled out suicide, as Holt had an ordinary domestic pattern in the days before his disappearance, and suicides in front of witnesses were considered atypical. The police ruled out suicide. That's a mystery unsolved first, ladies and gentlemen. Most of the time, that's the first thing they jump to. Oh, she probably killed herself. Oh, he probably killed herself. Oh, he probably killed himself. Can't talk tonight, Jesus. Who Killed Harold Holt, a 9-network television documentary that aired in 2007, gave particular credence to the suicide theory, as did the article in the Bulletin published the same year. In response, Holt's Sorry, the lights flickered. I thought I was going to lose power. That was creepy. Holt's son Sam gave an interview in which he said, "There's no mystery. In essence, there's no credibility at all. No one in our family believes it at all." Zara had earlier said that her husband was too selfish to commit suicide. Conspiracy theories. Holt's disappearance spawned numerous conspiracy theories, most of which involve claims of a cover-up at the highest level of government. In the 1968 story in the Sunday Observer claimed that Holt had been assassinated by the U.S. CIA, supposedly because he intended to pull Australian troops out of Vietnam. Also, suggestions were made that Holt had been killed by North Vietnamese, or that he had faked his own death to be with a lover. Oh, God. In 1983, a British journalist claimed that Holt was a lifelong spy for the People's Republic of China. According to Gray, Holt faked his own death to defect to China and was collected by frogmen, who dragged him into a waiting submarine. Reviewers noted multiple factual errors in the book, not at least that it was physically impossible for a submarine to be positioned so close to the shore. Holt's wife and grandson had both rejected the theories. Zara also observed that her husband didn't even like Chinese food. I'll end it on that note. Alright, we have a boatload of theories, but in reality, we don't actually have any theories. In all likelihood, I'm sure we can all agree, Harold Holt drowned. Whatever happened to his body at the end after he drowned, kind of irrelevant. He drowned. But what are the other theories? That he defected to China to be with a lover. That he killed himself, but that's not, that we rule that one out. He didn't kill himself. He was too selfish to kill himself. The CIA killed him because he didn't want to pull troops out of Vietnam. He could have been eaten by sharks. He could have got stung by a jellyfish. He could have had a heart attack in the water. Point is, he drowned in the water. Why people felt the need to create a bunch of conspiracy theories as to how he died is because he's a political figure. That's what we do. Anybody who's a big figure, we create these elaborate, big, giant stories. So yeah, I don't think this is really a mystery at all. Harold Holt likely drowned. So not much of a mystery here, but hey, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories as to how Harold Holt died, I still cannot talk. By all means, go right ahead. I do hope you enjoyed this episode of Mystery Unsolved, and I'm of course saying that to the people who watch this in the playback because no one watched it live, no one ever does. And yeah, so do stay tuned for next week's episode where I should always have these on hand and I don't, and it's just so sad because it's on my phone, which is also live. But nevertheless, do stay tuned for next week's episode of Mystery Unsolved. And until then, have a good one.